Welcome, traveler. My name is Winkari, and this is The Journey, a World of Warcraft podcast. A cozy stop along the road where we share stories, reflect on the world of Azeroth, and enjoy the game at our own pace. Pull up a chair, warm yourself by the fire, and let's begin. Hello, everyone. Happy belated Halloween. Happy November. We are recording this November 3rd, 2025, just for posterity, in case you listen to this way into the future, you have a reference point. But yeah, how you guys doing? How was your Halloween, if you celebrated it? For me and my family, I'm married and have 2 daughters, and where we live, the different cities around us celebrate Halloween trick-or-treating at different days at different times. It's a little odd. I grew up where you always did that on Halloween night. Apparently that's not really a thing here. So we actually did our trick-or-treating, a week and a half ago, roughly. And there's some people that go pretty hardcore. There was a guy who was dressed up as the devil and made an entire makeshift, haunted maze inside or outside in his yard, and there was a line to get in. There was blood and gore and body parts, and music and lights. Yeah, that was pretty hardcore. And then another house we went by a few blocks away, there was an entire graveyard set up, multiple smoke machines. There were skeletons vomiting out green Kool-Aid into the bin that you could drink from, and then a giant vat of candy, and I mean, it was just insane. And I think I've just learned something. I think the people that go that that get that into it, I think they're really doing it more for themselves than for the kids. That's kind of where I land on that one. But I digress. Happy belated Halloween. Happy November. I'm doing pretty well. I'm really, really grateful and thankful to have you guys check out our first episode, episode 1. If you guys haven't listened to that one, please go check it out. Episode 1 is Wow Did We Get Here? That is just a background on me, kind of my game playing background, what led me to WoW, what I like about MMOs, some MMO reviews. Please go check that out if you haven't already, but really excited moving forward to bring you these regular episodes, so to speak. Let's jump into our first segment. Where in the world of Warcraft are we?
Yeah.
Ooh, up, oop, oops, oop, ooh, up, oop, oops, oop, ooh, up, oop, oops, oop, ooh, up, oop, oop, oop. Where in the world of Warcraft are we? And with that, in case you're a little confused by what the frick frack tallywhack you just heard, that is a parody I made of a show that I grew up with called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. So if for some reason you have no idea what that reference point is, go look up the theme song to that from the early 90s. That'll make a little more sense. But for those of you who might be a little closer to my age, 40-something, 50-something, you'll recognize that one. I digress. So we're going to start out every episode like we did last one with a specific location in World of Warcraft. And I'm going to give you some simple clues to my surroundings, bit by bit, and see if you guys can guess where we are. The music should be the first signifier, if you haven't already figured that much out. So if you don't already recognize the music, I'm sitting at the bottom of a bubbling, warm body of water. Next to me, there are some warm slink gators, some shimmering peafowls, chillaxing, walking around. There's also a spring waddler walking around my feetsies. If we look off into the distance, there is some sort of building, home, something built into the side of a rock face. Further off in front of me, there is a waterfall cascading down, going under a small bridge. It's a blue sky, there's some green around me. I'm sitting on the sand right around this small body of water. And it's just a chill place. It's very clear this is a location that people want to go to, relax, warm themselves. Have you figured it out? We are in the expansion the War Within. We are in the zone of the Isle of Dorn, and more specifically, we are sitting at Boulder Springs. If you figured that one out, give yourself a pat on the back. That's where we are broadcasting from today. That answers our question of where in the world of Warcraft are we? Moving forward, this next segment is called The Mulligan.
The past must not be repeated.
In this segment, we're going to start the show discussing anything that we might have missed in our previous episode, maybe something we were wrong about that we need to correct, or maybe just something that we forgot to say, which is today's case. I was sitting, chillaxing, thinking about episode 1, and I remember there was something about Guild Wars 2 and Star Wars The Old Republic that I missed, that I forgot to mention, that I really, really did enjoy about those games, and that is the jumping puzzles. I was a huge fan of those in both of those games. I liked how in SWTOR, when you did the jumping puzzles, it was almost always leading you to one of those, I think, codex cubes, if I remember correctly, and you'd get a little bit of lore, like a little lore bit, and you'd learn more about something in the SWTOR universe. And then in Guild Wars 2, they were just designed from the beginning. They were vast, varied, sometimes extremely frustrating, but just a lot of fun. And maybe someone correct me if I'm wrong, I've never really seen those in WoW. Are they here? I don't know. Let me know. Also, moving forward, feel free to email me any corrections. Maybe I say something that's incorrect, downright just wrong. Email me, thejourneywowpod@gmail.com. I'd love to get any corrections. Just want to get things right. But if you didn't listen to that trailer episode, I'll be very clear from the beginning. I am not an expert. I play about a handful of hours a week, so let's just be clear about that. Let's move on to the next segment, shall we?
Do you bring news?
I do. I do bring the news. A few things to discuss. First, beta goes live for midnight on November 11th. You guys can check that out at the World of Warcraft website. This is something where if you pre-order at, I believe it's the Epic Edition, then you are automatically given access. To the beta. For me, I don't really have any hankering desire to be in the beta because I like experiencing things brand new and fresh for the first time when it releases. However, the one thing I do want to try, just to get a lay of the land, is housing. So I bought the base game. I did not buy the Epic Edition. But my understanding, if I'm reading it correctly, is that you can still opt in through their website, so please do that if you haven't already done so. And you may just get selected at random or specifically by them, so go do that if you haven't already done so. Next is WoW possibly coming to consoles? ? There's a little bit of, confusion about this. I've heard and read in different places. I don't think there's any official announcement, so to speak, that it's coming to consoles. It's more that there is a supposed Xbox console that can run PC software, which in effect would mean you could run the Blizzard client, aka WoW. So if that's true, that's a pretty big deal. A lot of people are making a big deal about this. I don't know. For me, I don't have a problem with it. To me, the more the merrier. Anything that can build the player base, I am for. The only caveat I will give is that as long as it does not bring down the overall experience of the game, which I don't think it will, I'm for that. I know Final Fantasy XIV does this. I've played with people that play Final Fantasy XIV on a console, and in terms of changing to controller functionality and this and that, I've seen it done. I know a lot of people prefer that in 14, and I believe they can do that in WoW. Next is, there is a nice little quality life of update coming forward, and that's a new Mythic section, like a Mythic Plus section that's being added to the Dungeon Journal moving forward in Midnight. Again, nice little quality of life, anything that makes it easier, more accessible, I am for. And finally, I'm not really sure how I feel about this potential upcoming change, but apparently in player housing there is going to be possible reputations within player housing. I'm reading this right now from Wowhead, Mira, Lilistraza, Flynn Fairwind, and the Power of Friendship. I'm not going to go into the details too much. I guess my fear is always grind. If something becomes too grindy, I'm just not a fan. But I say that, however, knowing that some people are about that grind, so to speak, and they may be for that, or they just like stuff that they can continually strive for. So it's kind of one of those things where, shake the magic 8 ball, ask again later. We will see. So, what do you guys think of these headlines and potential updates? What do you guys think? You can send me an email at thejourneywowpod@gmail.com. Moving on, what can you buy this month with your trader's tenders, or as I like to call them, your chicken tenders?
Welcome to the Trading Post.
So this November, their theme, I feel like this was the same theme last year, but it's what you'd probably expect. It's Thanksgiving, Harvest-y themed stuff. Their main mount is the Highlands Gobbler. Looks really cool, but it doesn't fly. Meh. I don't know about you, but since you fly everywhere, I don't really find myself using ground mounts, but that's me. That's the main mount for the month. There's a bunch of kind of farmer, harvesty type transmogs. There's a really cool one, the Ensemble Waterproof Attire. It's kind of a giant yellow raincoat and galoshes. And I find myself looking at the trading post a lot more now through the eyes of housing, right? Like, not necessarily RPing, but, would I use some of this when I'm in the housing section? And that's kind of what makes me go, maybe I will. So that's pretty much what you can expect this month. I'm looking through them right now. You can have an ear of yellow corn as your transmog for a mace. That's fun. But yeah, I could see them going a lot housing related moving forward, especially people knowing they can use those in those sections. Scrolling down to see if there's anything else that kind of jumps out at me. Not really. There are 2 returnings, and that is the Ensemble Dark Rangers General Kit. You know who that one looks like. And the Ensemble Gladiators Battered Armor. Very much kind of your Conan Barbarian one, if you guys are looking to do that. I still have at the bottom my frozen one, the Hand of Reshkigal. Am I pronouncing that right? Have that one frozen. But we will see. That's your update for the Trading Post. Next, let's see what you can earn by playing the game in the Traveler's Log.
Greetings, Traveler.
I know in months past, sometimes when you play and you get a certain amount of travel points, a certain amount of reward is given to you through like an item or a transmog. This month's just the plain old chicken tenders. That's all you get. No rewards. No rewards other than that. The final reward is kind of disappointing to me, to be honest. It is another turkey. Gobble, gobble. That is prized turkey. Another ground mount. Meh. It's kind of how I feel. Are you guys like me where it kind of loses its luster when you feel like you're getting the same exact mount that you've seen or owned before? It's just reskinned? I can't be in the minority on this one, can I? I don't know. That's just how I feel. That is this month's Traveler's Log. Moving on, let's check out the calendar and see what events are going on over the next few weeks, so you guys can know if there's any holidays, micro-holidays, events in-game that you might want to check out.
The future is ours to forge.
Well, like I said earlier, I'm recording on Monday, November 3rd. Yeah, I was going to say, if this goes out before this deadline, I don't think it's going to, but Day of the Dead is ending. It'll be ending at 1 p.m. today, at least 1 p.m. my time. But I'm also noticing that the Dark Moon Fair is open for business. That happened yesterday on Sunday, November 2nd. That will be running through November 9th. That is next Sunday. Pet Battle bonus event will be tomorrow. November 4th through the 11th. Time Walking Dungeon events, November 4th as well through November 11th. And next week, the War Within Dungeon event is starting. That is on the 11th of November through the 18th of November. And then November 12th, the Moonkin Festival, a wonderful celebration of all things Moonkin, is happening today in Moonglade. Stop by and see what you can learn. That is November 12th through the 13th, and I've actually never checked that one out, so I'll probably have to look at that one if I can hopefully get online at that time. And then the big one that I'm looking at moving forward is November 16th. That's a Sunday. That starts WoW's 21st anniversary. And that is, again, November 16th through December 7th, if you guys want to check that one out. And I think that pretty much catches us up to speed. My plan is to do 2 podcasts a month. So our first one will cover the first few weeks, and then the second one will cover the next few weeks moving forward. Well, that just about wraps up our housekeeping, if you will. Let's move into the portion of our show, which is what I would call the main meat of the show, of each episode. Maybe we'll call it Adventures in Azeroth.
As always, we have much to discuss.
So before we dive in, I want to get us up to speed with where I am with the current endgame of World of Warcraft. I have completed the War Within. The only part of the game that I have not finished is the ecological succession. Oh, Lord help me. I will finish it one day. We will talk about that one day. But that's, to my knowledge, the only thing that I haven't really finished up with the War Within until this next thing, which was on my list. And not necessarily story-related, but something that I wanted to complete before we moved on from the expansions. And that is Delves. I've played them as I leveled through the expansion, but there were a few that I needed to finish in terms of individual stories, and then some of those discoveries as it relates to those chests that you find. So that was my goal recently. I went to do Mushroom Morsel, which is the specific story in Mycomancer Delve. And the intro quest dialogue, I must say, was pretty darn hilarious. This is verbatim from the text in the game. You peer into the heart of Azeroth and feel as if you're being pulled into the very depths of existence itself. Everything seems to stop. The lights of the world as you know it seems to cease to be as you gaze deeper into the amulet. In the darkness of the world, one thing becomes clear. It's time to go do another task that a dwarf encased in diamond claiming to be Magni is asking you to do. And then you respond by saying, "Right, Magni. Let's go save Azeroth after we handle some mushrooms." It's a great quest. Mushroom Morsel is the story. You inhale mushroom gas. I'm not making this up. And you meet some very interesting characters while under the influence, shall we say. Bran turns into Magni, and you ride Alec, the Elicus Pincius. Yes, that's true. You ride this thing kind of like a rocket, kind of like a like jet ski. It's kind of how you use it. That was a fun one as I finished up. That was the last one that I needed to do as it related to stories, and it gave me the achievement, Delve Lore Master War Within. I will say I was sad because it seems like a pretty big feat in my mind, but there was actually no title or reward tied to that one. So I finished that, and then I turned myself towards completing all those sturdy chests to be found. To get the Leave No Treasure Unfound achievement. So one of them, as I was doing Fungal Folly, actually dropped the Ancient Construct toy, which summons Icarus the Unbreakable. To be honest, I'm not really sure what it's for. I mean, as I'm reading it here, it says this in-game. Summon Icarus the Unbreakable at target location for 1 minute. This acts as a target dummy that can be damaged and healed by opposing rolls while it persists. How far up will you make the numbers go? I guess I'm not smart enough to figure that out, but you guys can figure that out if you want to look it up. That's the Ancient Construct that summons Icarus the Unbreakable. Next, I moved on to find all the discoveries in the delves that I hadn't found yet, and I must admit there were about 4 or 5 that I didn't find just playing the game naturally. So I went to YouTube and Wowhead to find those, so I wasn't spending, hours and hours trying to find these things. And I found those 5, and got my achievement for that one. Leave no treasure unfound. It also gave a title for that achievement, which is nice, and that is Seeker of Loot. I then moved on to do Spore Sweeper, which was a specific achievement you needed to do to go through, I forget which dungeon it was. I think it's Fungal Folly, but it's the one where those spores kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they damage you, and you have to do a run at a certain tier level without getting hit by one the entire time. Very tense doing that one, but did complete it. And then the final one was called Daystormer, and that one is... I'm trying to remember the delve name. I don't remember, but it's the one with the ship and the cannons, and if you cross the purple lines, then they shoot you. Very difficult one to do, but I got very lucky that it happened to be that the story that I was in on that specific delve gives you a mechanic where you can kind of snuff it out for like 10 seconds, and that made it a lot easier, we'll just say. So having done that, there were 2 other achievements within this overall Glory of the Delver achievement that I didn't need to do because they're no longer available season-wise. So that made it done for me, and I got the achievement, Glory of the Delver. You do receive a mount for this one that is Ivory Goliathus. What a great name. It's basically a giant flying beetle, really well designed. It says in the journal, these giant beetles spend their lives in the darkest tunnels of Khazalgar. Though they are deprived even of the faintest glimmer of artificial sunlight, they still thrive. So, Glory of the Delver. Check. Here's a little bit of, I guess, review for me as it relates to delves thus far in World of Warcraft. I really like that there's another PvE option for gear, especially for those that don't do mythic dungeons or lots of raiding, like myself, and probably you. I like that there's just enough story to not make them feel grindy. I like that you can choose how difficult you want them to be. I like that they are built into the environment like the best dungeons and raids are. I like that they rotate the stories to give you some variety. And I like that rotation of bountiful delves that comes eventually gives you even better gear. I think that's a nice rotation that they do. Here's some dislikes. I think most of us can agree that Bran kind of needs to go play in traffic, if you will. Kind of, if not a lot, annoying. Definitely excited for a new companion in Midnight. This is just a personal one. Maybe too many curios. I might be in the minority here, but I feel like when I have too many choices, I kind of get overwhelmed and I just stick with one. Or you look it up and you do the one that's best. So maybe do a few less. Maybe I'm in the minority there. I didn't like that you have to start over a delve when you log out or go to do instance content like a dungeon or a raid. You have to start it all over again. I'd love for them to change that in the future. I didn't like, amongst many other people, those mechanics like the candle or the purifier, and I'm really happy to hear that they're moving away from mechanics like that in future delves. I didn't like what I would call maybe kind of over complexity of delves like Archival Assault. Again, I may be in the minority here, but I like them when they're a little shorter and not as vast or not as many winding paths or levels. That's just a personal thing. I also think that the excavation delve, if you remember that one, had a lot of wasted space. That's the one with all the pillars and the statues and very vast and open. I don't like wasted space. I also don't like that when you go and travel among that part of the delve, there's nothing really meaningful to see or find in those. And finally, I didn't like that you had to find the delves on the map and hover over it just to see which individual story they were doing. I'd love for them to put this in a tab that you can just bring up, because I know they have that current feature where you can see what's current. I'd love for them to just show that on there. And maybe that's in the plans and I haven't read that somewhere, but I would love to see them putting that in the tab so you can know, hey, here's all the stories in one place, so you know if you need to go complete it, you know where to go. I also did my first 12-month subscription to World of Warcraft. I've always been a month-to-month, guys. The very first time, if you guys want to go to the Battle.net website, I don't know if this is going to still be live when you guys hear this, but I can read from it now. This 12-month subscription comes with quite a few benefits, but the main ones, obviously, you save like a couple bucks each month. Then there's some mounts and pets. Astral Oryx is one of them. Grandiose Gurlock is another. This one is a ground mount, but it has a really awesome animation. Check that one out. And then the Herald of Sabak. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, but it felt good to kind of commit and be like, hey, a year's paid for and get a few new perks and cheaper prices. I'll take it. Now I want to take some time to get you up to speed with what I've cleared so far in playing World of Warcraft over all these years. I originally played vanilla, and to be honest, I don't really remember if I beat vanilla. Is that Sad Panda? I don't think I did, to be perfectly honest. I just remember playing it when it first came out and played a lot of it. I remember doing the majority of Burning Crusade, but maybe not some of the ends of it, but I did go back and did the last remnants of Burning Crusade, and then I also went through the entire Wrath of the Lich King expansion recently. So that's stuff that I've done over the last, 6 months or so. So we're not discussing that stuff, but I did want to look back before I moved forward from Wrath of the Lich King to see if there was anything else that I was missing. And I came across old instances. I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but I recently learned that you can unlock old versions of some instances. And the first one that I unlocked was Old Scholomance. Or is it Scholomance? Scholomance? How do you pronounce that? So if you haven't already done this one before, you actually have to do a set of breadcrumb-like quests, or quest lines, so to speak. I really enjoyed the lore and immersion of this. You had to go through different areas through, I think it was Eastern Plague Lands, finding kind of hidden or secret items, then you had to give them to certain spirits on Scholomance Island before it would actually give you access to this globe that would, I guess, transport you to the older version of the dungeon. It's pretty similar to the newer version. It just has, I would say, more expansion to the rooms or to like the overall dungeon, more levels as well. I did like that it gave me more context and background for the newer version of the dungeon. And I also like that there was an extra boss you could do after completing the dungeon, which I don't think I really knew. I just found by accident. You go to this, I guess, balcony room, and you summon, I don't know if it's like a wyvern, if I remember correctly, something like that, or a gargoyle, something like that. And I must say, the first time I did it, I accidentally left the room, and the gate shuts. So I literally was stuck, and I wasn't able to fight this boss, and then had to go back and do it all over again. Another attempt, I tried jumping out in the open air window that's there, because I just wanted to see if it let me. And it let me all right, but it also kicked me out of the dungeon. So just know that going in. Overall, I would give Old Scholomance a grade of a B. Next, I checked out Old Naxxramas. This one, I actually wasn't able to fully complete the unlocking of, and I'll get to that in a second, but there's different things you do to get access to it. The hardest part for me was you had to run Stratholme, where you had to defeat an enemy on one side of the dungeon, then you had only 5 minutes to book it over to the other side of the dungeon, defeat very specific enemies, all within that allotted time. This may or may not have taken me multiple attempts and included a few 4-letter words in the process. It was frustrating, did feel good when I finally did it, and I stopped during the last requirement to get access to Old Naxxramas because you need to be honored with Argent Dawn, and I just didn't want to go through the process of doing that yet. So that is something that I will do at a later date. Next, I looked at Old Karazhan. This isn't something that you need to unlock. It's just a Burning Crusade raid, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. That I wanted to do before we moved on to Cataclysm. And I loved Karazhan. This has got to be my favorite raid that I've played so far in World of Warcraft. I loved the magnificent scope, the scale of the tower. I love that it felt like a mini story or kind of movie of its own with distinct sections to the tower, and it really felt like a real accomplishment when you finally reach the top of it. I love that there's a section of it that has an entire theater or a stage inside of it where you can see a different show depending on when you run it. No joke. So I think there's like 3 or 4 that can show up when you run it, and the one that I happened to do was Little Red Riding Hood, and it does this little play, and then afterward you get to fight and kill the wolf. Overall, I really liked that it felt like an inhabited space in the world, and not just a separate instance that some feel like in World of Warcraft. Overall, I would give Old Karazhan a grade of an A. There are 2 others that you can unlock that I know of that I have not done yet. That's Old Zul'Grub, am I pronouncing that right? And Old Scarlet Monastery. I also discovered an item in-game that I don't have access to yet. It's a toy specifically. It's something you get, I believe, in Battle for Azeroth, in Nazjatar, or don't quote me on it, but I don't have access to it currently. But as an alternative, I stumbled upon an inky black potion. If you don't know about this, go buy some from the auction house. This is really great for players who don't play in the evening and don't get to experience playing under the night sky. This potion turns this sky to nighttime. True story. Go check it out. As I moved on to do Cataclysm next as an expansion, I remembered I'd already done Mount Hyjal. I'd done this a while back, so the next zone for me was Vashj'ir. I started the storyline by going to the Stormwind docks. The problem, though, is that it jumps you right into Vashj'ir without any explanation. And after a little bit of Googling, I realized that I had to watch a YouTube video of the original cutscene to know that what had happened was that the crew and ship that I was on that took me there was attacked by a monster and thrown overboard. Very disappointed that there was no real context for that, and I found myself in the middle of this ship underwater. However, this beginning zone or section of the zone of Vashj'ir had my favorite writing of today's podcast. And we're going to do a segment called The Golden Quill.
Fantastic!
This is going to be a segment that highlights some amazing writing that we experience in World of Warcraft. This may come in the form of a book we read, a lore piece from a monument or a plaque, or in today's case, from quest text. This is one of the first quests you do in Vashj'ir. It's called Once More with Eeling, and I am reading verbatim from the quest. Eels are among the creepiest of Azeroth's creatures. Sure, there are those who pretend that they don't mind them, and others who actually claim to favor them. They are lying. Truth be told, no one likes eels. Eels don't even like eels. Azeroth would be a better place if no one ever had to envision an eel slithering out from the murky depths and biting them in the face. This was just so well done. I laughed wholeheartedly, and that is deserving of today's Golden Quill. As I went throughout the rest of the zones, or zone, it's kind of like subparts to Vashj'ir, I learned that there was a rare called Poseidus that had a mount drop, an underwater mount drop, that I was really excited to find. I literally went through all the different drop zones of this creature and just couldn't find it. So continued on questing, and I stumbled upon this turtle ship thing at the top of the water of Vashj'ir. And I jumped on top of it, and then all of a sudden, my screen froze. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? Eventually, it unfroze, and I found myself in a completely different zone, completely different continent in Azeroth. I went to go look this up online, and apparently this is called Young Belvo. It's a specific kind of traveling, cruise ship, if you want to look at it that way, that brings you between different continents, or expansion packs. Again, like I said, kind of like a free WoW cruise. So if you go and do this, you find it in a different section of the game. Don't forget if the game freezes for a bit, it's just doing that as it travels between the zones. Later in questing, I came across the Pincer X2 submarine quest, also a great quest in this zone. It's very Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where you get into this giant submarine, you're traveling between different sections of the zone. It felt very cinematic. More please, Blizzard, more please. And then later in the zones, I did finally stumble across Poseidus. It was in a section that I hadn't checked yet, and downloading Rare Scanner, which is one of the add-ons that I have, it popped up right away, and it's, I believe, a 100% drop to get this mount. So I was really excited to get the mount. I actually came back a second time with a different character just so I could get another drop. Apparently it drops every single time. And it sells in the auction house currently, I believe, at least where I am, for about 3,000 gold. So if you want to do that, head to the furthest southwest location. That is, to my understanding, where this creature starts. And I found him there both times. You can sell him on your auction house for a good amount of money. So the rest of Vashj'ir, there was some interesting quests, I must say, at the very beginning, but I did notice that these quests and the side quests, they really started to taper off after that first zone. And I think if they could do it over again, I'd like to see them more spread out, those quests, or give the same attention to those later mini-zones as they did in the first one. There's also a lot of backtracking, kind of old school backtracking between quest givers that wasn't really fun, to be honest. And then as I was finishing up the entire zone of Vashj'ir, there was this rare mob as well called Mobus. It's this huge shark that actually swims closer to the surface of the water if you're ever trying to find it. And could not defeat him solo because it's just a bunch of question marks in terms of its level. So came back with my level 80 Hunter Elms and one-shot him. It dropped a tiara, a halberd, and a recipe. And on my way to record audio for the episode, I actually killed a whale shark nearby. It's literally called Whale Shark. It actually gave me an achievement. The achievement is called From Hell's Heart I Stab Thee, which I'm assuming is from Moby Dick, haven't read it. And the description of that achievement reads, defeat the whale shark in Vashj'ir, despite or perhaps because of the fact that he drops no loot. So, there you go. There's your random achievement of the day that you may not have known about before. I did end up finishing the zone of Vashj'ir, but I will say it felt very anticlimactic to me. Another thing that Blizzard needs to go back and do here is the final cinematic cutscene. You take that submarine again originally, but you don't do it when you actually play it right now. It just jumps you to this section where there's a giant whirlpool going down. You do some fights, and then they just say, go down and try to rescue the guy. And I found out that there's another final cinematic that they don't show you. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that was really disheartening for me. I went to go do the final, or I guess the only dungeon of Vashj'ir, that's Throne of the Tides. But I could never get anyone to queue for it just based on, obviously, my level. So since I couldn't get anyone to do the LFG group, I was actually prepared to go bring my max level character and just one-shot it, but then I realized if I did that, I couldn't finish the final 2 quests of the zones. And obviously, a guy who loves the journey of WoW, the story of WoW, this was very disheartening for me, but thankfully, I did beg a bunch of people in Stormwind until Dakma, thank you Dakma, was kind enough to run me through it. So yes, we were one-shotting things, but at least I was able to go and do it. complete the dungeon. A big thank you to Dogma for being able to finish those final 2 quests of the entire zone. I do have to say, though, before I entered that dungeon, I noticed that there's another cavern entrance nearby that you cannot enter. And I was like, what the heck? Like, is this like old material? Is it some secret I don't know about? So I actually took a picture, threw it on my Twitter. If you haven't checked out Twitter, it's the Journey WoW Pod. I posted a picture on there of kind of asking, what is this all about? And before someone could respond, I actually decided to look it up. And good old Google told me that the second tunnel, it was planned to be the entrance to a full raid instance, also named the Abysmal Mall, which is where you are, but it was never released. It was intended to continue the storyline from the Throne of the Tides dungeon, where players would help rescue Neptulin, the Tide Hunter, from the old god General Osmond. The entrance to this was cancelled, and this remains in the game, obviously as a non-functional portal. So, kind of sad, Panda, right? Overall, the Throne of the Tides was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a great environment, great storytelling. The bosses were interesting. I like that they continued and generally speaking did close out the story by completing the dungeon. For example, you defeat the Kraken. That was the original monster that terrorized you in that video that we couldn't see at the beginning of the entire zone. And it kind of made things come full circle in a way. I really liked that there was 2 layers to the dungeon. There was this mechanic that you jumped in a bubble that floated you up or down between these 2 levels. And when you're going between those 2 levels, you're seeing all the ocean around you. It reminded me of the tram between Stormwind and Ironforge. But I must admit, I did make the mistake or choice of jumping down to see if it would let me. Oh, it let me all right, and I died. Does anyone else have a propensity for doing that, just jumping from high edges? I very much enjoy that in WoW and pretty much any video game I play. I don't know why. I should look into that. There was one bad part of the dungeon. One specific, like, objectively bad part, and that there is a glitch currently in the game that if you go on one shot, you don't get to complete one of the last 2 quests on a boss. I had to go read this on Wowhead, pause during the fight, and then turn in the quest in the middle of the fight in this character just so I could complete it. So that was pretty frustrating for me, just to be able to complete the dungeon or the quest therein. And for me, I had to go run it twice just to be able to complete it. So that being said, overall, I would give a grade of the Throne of the Tides a B+. With those criticisms I gave specifically of Vashj'ir as a zone in terms of going into it, missing the different parts of cutscenes, glitches, etc., this leads us into our segment that I'm going to call Dear Blizzard. I'm going to do this every single episode, and I'm going to pen ye old letter to Blizzard, essentially requesting or making a strongly worded note for them to hear or respond to. Tongue-in-cheek, of course, but here goes. Dear Blizzard, I'm writing to you today to remind you that all content is current content. When someone logs into this game for the first time, the first zones, the first quests, the first dungeons they experience are current content to them. When a player progresses with this game and chooses their Chromie time to quest an expansion of their choice, it's current content to them. When a player like me wants to go back to the expansions or contents they missed because they want to experience the story of what's led us to the present day, that's current content to them. Because of this fact, all content present and past should be given the same amount of polish, attention, and quality control it deserves. If I'm entering a zone for the first time, starting an elaborate quest line, or simply trying to progress in some fashion, I should expect the same experience that someone had when it was first released. I'm kindly requesting that you revisit old expansions and fix cutscenes, bugs, and glitches so that they have the same workability and high standard we expect from World of Warcraft. Furthermore, if I want to complete certain quests tied to dungeons or raids from past expansions, there simply aren't enough players to queue for them. Therefore, please make better incentives for people to queue up for older instances, bring follower dungeons to older instances, or provide a way to scale the content to our characters so we can do them at any level without getting one-shot or one-shotting the content. When you only focus on the idea that current endgame is the only thing that matters, the only thing that people should be concerned with, you are being short-sighted. You're forgetting that all of Azeroth is viable content. Please don't forget that we, the players, don't just spend our time in the most recent expansion, but in all of the expansions. To reiterate, all content is current content. Sincerely, Winkari. So, with all of that being said, let's wrap up Vashj'ir, shall we? This is my review of the zone at large. I really enjoyed that it was a nice break from regular kind of ground areas. I enjoyed getting water pets for my hunter, especially the ghost crawler pet, which is in the far southwest section if you need to check that out for your hunter. I like that the overall story was easy to follow, but I will admit it wasn't very engaging. There's a lot of unnecessary backtracking. The questline does go back in time to experience as a Naga, which is, I guess, sounds cool, but it felt really tedious going back and forth and back and forth and in and out of kind of the past time and present time. And also there seemed to be a lot of wasted space in the zones. There was not as much going on in certain sections as you got further into the overall zone as I believe there could have been. And like I said earlier, the questing was more condensed and compelling like in that first section of the zone, but I feel like they didn't give the same energy and time and effort to the stuff moving on after that. Even though it was underwater, and some people don't like that, they think the combat can be tedious, I don't think it was that tedious for me personally. Maybe that's because I'm a hunter, but I also think it's because most of your fighting and engaging is on the ocean floor. So I personally didn't think it was that bad. One other thing I didn't really like in the zone overall were the quests that were in those big shell creatures. You do it twice in two different sections, and both of them felt a bit too samey for me, a little too simple, and not very engaging overall. That being said, like I said earlier, it does have a great dungeon, and everything having been said there, my overall grade to Vashj'ir would be a C+. After finishing Vashj'ir, other than that in the last few weeks, I engaged in some holidays, or micro-holidays. The first was Brewfest, where, for me, I thought it was kind of lackluster, if I'm honest. I rode a ram, galloping at a few different varying speeds. Woohoo! Definitely could have been more dynamic and fun. I delivered some kegs with a ram, I did a chug and chuck quest, throwing stout, I RP'd as a food server. If there was a quest in there that I kind of enjoyed, that was one in Ironforge where you go to the top, you get a barrel of lager, and then you ride it, dodging different things in your way down into... I don't remember the name of that city there at the bottom of the mountain there, but that one was okay. I tried the holiday dungeon, the quickest dungeon ever of like 20 seconds where you pick a fight with that dwarf in, is it Black Rock Mountain, something like that, but never got any good drops from it. A few days after the event, I did receive an email from Wagner Hammerstrike, and this was a bounty of the harvest item as a thank you for doing another quest where you honor Uther, which also didn't really do much for me. But what was really cool is that it creates harvest bread, and I ate it, and it just so happens that this was my 50th food, I guess, that I had tried, so it gave me an achievement. And that achievement was Taste Like a Chicken. That being said, achievement aside, overall, I would give Brewfest a grade of a D. The next holiday I checked out was Hallow's End. This one was a lot of fun. One of the highlights being the Headless Horseman run. This is something I thought I remember doing back in the day, but the vague memory I had was him flying over Tirisfal Glades. So maybe that was just him flying overhead like he does in Elwyn Forest, but that's the only memory I really have of him back in the day. But I queued up for it. It brought me to the Scarlet Monastery. And after you defeat him, Susanna, this spirit there, she says, Thomas? And he says, Susanna, I've searched for so long. And then they just stand there. I was like, what is the context for this? I did notice that below his name, his title was Son of Thomas? I don't know. At that time, I was very confused. I did defeat him, and I got 2 achievements. First was a cleansing fire. The second was don't lose your head, man. So apparently I've never killed him before, thanks to the achievements telling me as such. I did leave the dungeon, and then I realized that from the drops, I had a pumpkin with loot inside. So I was like, oh, I'll open this up. And guess what I found? The Horseman's Reins. No joke. This is apparently, from what I checked online, this is only around 0.5% of a drop. And I got it on the very first kill I've ever had of the Headless Horseman. And that's his original horse, is my understanding. If you want to go check out him in all his beauty with my character, I put a short little video on our Twitter. You can find me at The Journey WoW Pod. It also gave me an achievement for getting those reins. So there you go, 3 quick achievements right then and there. I ran it a second time, and she says, this is it, my husband. The horseman lies just ahead. Do what you must, but be careful. The horseman is a formidable foe. I'm afraid I would only be getting in the way during your battle. When you are ready, I will find someone to hide until it is safe. Good luck, hero. So, killed him again. The second time, it dropped a pet, Sinister Squashling, which apparently I already had. And then subsequent drops, just for your guys' knowledge, I got the achievement Kicking with the Wick for defeating him with all 4 Wicker Men curses. If you don't know this already, go over to the Wicker Men at the beginning of this and get all the affixes or affixes or whatever they're called. And that will give you an achievement for defeating him. My 4th kill, it pushed me over the limit to complete my monthly's Traveler's Log, which is great. I received the mount the Legion Forged Elec. My 5th kill dropped a toothpick, which when using gave me another achievement. That sparkling smile. My 6th kill dropped Hallow's End armor for my Windborn, Velocidrake, and then the 7th and 8th kill were just a couple cosmetics. I next moved on to the inn at Dornagal. I ate some candy. It turned me into a gnome. Gave me a few items. I then went over to Stormwind, and there were some kids selling me items in exchange for candy, which is pretty hilarious if you really think about it. And that's where you get a bunch of the quests overall for Hallow's End, especially obviously if you're human or if you're just in that area of Stormwind. And one of them says you can burn a Wicker Man, which represents the cleansing of the self, which I thought was kind of interesting. Another quest had me fly through the Undercity, dropping stink bombs. I noticed that when it did this, you're flying, I think, on a broom with an NPC, dropping them, but I didn't see any players. So I don't know if that actually took me there, or if it was just like its own instanced version of it, but regardless, I thought that was kind of a nice little tour, a nice little touch, especially as an Alliance player who's not really spending time in the Undercity. I went to Goldshire, and the costumed orphan matron told me that the Headless Horseman was once a knight of the Silver Hand, and hero among paladins now cursed. He was driven insane with a Scarlet Monastery believing he is alive, and we are all dead. And I was like, okay, the plot thickens, makes a little more sense now. I was given a quest that I had to do a trick-or-treat at 4 different innkeepers, one in Stormwind, where you flex, Ironforge, where you train like the choo-choo, or you do like the chicken. And then to do the one in Darnassus, I actually realized I had to go to Lordanel, is that how you pronounce it? And talk to Zadormi and change it back to Old Darnassus, because New Darnassus is, we'll just say, a little crispy. Before I did this, though, I must say, flying in front of crispy Darnassus. What a beautiful image. Another thing you can check out on my Twitter, I had to take a picture in-game of me flying. It was nighttime, the full moon, and then the world tree. One of my favorite vistas in the game. Go check out that image on Twitter. It was awesome. Finally got there to the innkeeper, did a dance, finished that quest, stopped back in Stormwind, and I bought a bunch of toys, a bunch of pets from Craggle Wobbletop. This has nothing to do with Hallow's End. I just happened to see him. He's the little gnome that's pushing the cart of toys and novelties. A lot of football, Swineskin, Blue Clockwork Rocket Bot, Blue Thrash and Crash and Racer controller, which lets you control a little RC rocket for about 50 yards. Tiny Blue Ragdoll, a wind-up train wrecker, which just kind of disappeared after I sat down. Not sure if that's a glitch. Earpiece of Tranquil Focus. I just like that I could buy all those things with gold. That was fun. Also convenient enough for me that when I did this, I actually collected 100 toys. It pushed me over 100, and I got another achievement. Tons of toys. After this, I headed on to another quest that ended up being a really fantastic experience. So good that it's going to be today's segment of what we're going to call the quest that was the best.
I am having the best time.
This is going to be a segment moving forward where we highlight the best quest that we experienced in the last few weeks of playing. For this one, this had me check out a courier who was murdered on a ship in the harbor of Stormwind. When I went to check on him, there were spiders coming out from under a bed next to a man who was murdered with a dagger in his back. And as you follow these spiders, it takes you all the way through different weaving paths in Stormwind back to Auctioneer Fitch, which then leads me to Cutthroat Alley, which I actually never realized existed before in Stormwind. The quest continues to have you gather items and then go to the catacombs beneath the Cathedral of Light, also of which I had no idea existed. And the spiders continue down and down these stairs to the catacombs where there's dead gang members lining the stairwells and purple lightning flashing around you. At the bottom of those catacombs, there's this archmage that had killed a gang leader and accidentally summoned a void demon, and then he vanishes. And here's the cool part. I had a choice of who to give the crate to. Kind of the good guy or the bad guy, so to speak. I chose the good guy. Apparently it doesn't really matter, but when I did that, he ended up betraying his original intentions. He trades it to the bad guy for a charm so that he can enter Karazhan, but the bad guy ends up turning into a spider, dying right before you before he can actually tell the other guy how to use the charm. The reward was a creepy crate pet that follows you around and is super hungry, and if it's around any sort of like rabbit or frog, any critter in the game, it actually eats it. I mean, just what an awesome pet. So I just want to say, as like a Diet Coke Dear Blizzard here, I wish WoW had more choice-filled games like this in the quest, or in the game rather. It reminds me of in The War Within when you do that airship flying school quest and you choose who deserves to, I guess, kind of not win, but come out first, so to speak. I want more of that in the game. Just really, really, really enjoyed it. Next, I had a quest called A Ghostly Message that took me to Tirisfal Glades, which is really interesting because in the quest text it says the reason you're going there is because a tome flung itself to the floor, opening to a page with my name on it. See, now that's immersion, right? You've got me. So I traveled, went there, and then I happened upon this quest, NPC, a ghost whose name is, get this, Sir Thomas. Same as the Headless Horseman? I don't know. So it's percolating. I'm thinking about this. He tells me that his wife's spirit is missing. He wants to have peace, although his sins may not be forgiven. So we approach Scarlet Monastery. The spirits are talking around you about how they're all going to die. Then eventually one of the fearful crusaders says that we have to stay away because the infected are everywhere, which I'm assuming is the plague. And then eventually Sir Thomas says that they followed the Grand Crusader without question. But how could they see what he truly was? Eventually we come across Susanna, his wife. Okay, so this is making sense now. And she says, "How could you turn on us? Murderer!" Saying that to Thomas. Thomas says, I didn't know. I couldn't have known. And then later, Jerome Hayton, this other character, shows up saying that the horseman was meant to cleanse this world, but by Grand Crusader Dathrohan's will, he would see him restored. So Sir Thomas is eventually raised into the Headless Horseman, coming full circle, but with his newfound power, he kills Jerome, rides away into the monastery, and Susanna asks me to enter the dungeon to confront him. So, makes a lot more sense now, right? While I was waiting for that, I went to the ruins of Lordaeron while I was waiting for the queue to go up. I doused the Wicker Man for a quest, another one to do. I finally got into the queue, getting an upgraded ring from him, and finished the quest, and this time Sir Thomas thanks me for saving him from his madness, and he tells me he can return to their children and rest at last, and to bring his tome back to Orphan Matron. But not before gliding his finger across a blank page spectral ink, marking his words. It ends with them talking together with voiceovers, which I love, saying that the Headless Horseman is no more and that they can rest at long last with their family and soul whole again. A fitting ending, right? Provided great closure. But can I just say, I really wish they required you to do this before you just queue up in the LFG, because it does not make sense when you just go and kill the guy. Just saying. The one quest I could not complete in all of Hallow's End was Stop the Fires in Goldshire. Maybe you guys have done this one before, but I think it's glitched. It's the one where you're throwing water on the inn and the blacksmith's area. I think it's glitched. Couldn't finish it, but let me tell you, Hallow's End, top-notch, top-tier. Overall, I would give this holiday event a grade of an A. And finally, the holiday, the micro-holiday that I just completed was Day of the Dead. I've actually never done this one before, but the first thing I did was headed to the Stormwind Cemetery. I danced with the Katrina NPC. It turned me into an undead, and it gave me the Dead Man's Party achievement. There's a vendor standing next by that I bought just about everything I could from them, including some transmogs, some kind of costumes of I think it's the Lucha Cabra, I believe they're called, the different Mexican wrestlers, where you can actually fight and work towards other achievements if you really want to. There's an item that you can get where if you activate it for 30 seconds in any graveyard, you can see spirits around dancing, which I thought was really cool and culturally appropriate. However, I really wish that they would have done something that really would have made this stick out and be more of an enjoyable event. They had a missed opportunity, I would say. What they should have done was had multiple types of spirits, saying different types of dialogues instead of just one thing. And even better, they should have had important characters, their spirits, come back and speak to you. For example, the Queen of Stormwind is buried right there. That'd be pretty cool. Just saying. Next, I went to do the quest, The Grateful Dead. I could not find for the life of me the NPC in Stormwind for this, until I realized that because I am a night elf, this is not something you can do because you need to go to the graveyard of your race's capital city. Very embarrassing. So I had to make the trek over to Darnassus, and there I made some bread of the dead and turned it into the quest giver that gives me, will give you if you do this as well, a macabre marionette pet, which is basically a rocker skeleton with a sombrero. Considering this is a micro-holiday, I would give an overall grade of a B-. And with that, our time together comes to a close. Whew, that was a lot, wasn't it? Really happy to have our first episode in the books. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you listen to the podcast all the way through to the end of the episode. There'll be a few bloopers for you to hear at the end there. Looking ahead, we're going to try for 2 a month release cycle. A bi-monthly, monthly, bi-weekly. I don't know how that's described. 2 a month. That's what we're going to try. See how it goes. You look for the next one in a couple of weeks. If you like what you hear and you'd like to keep traveling with me, be sure to follow the journey wherever you listen. And if you want to do one thing for me that would be more helpful than anything else,
Tell others of me.
that would be to rate and review the podcast. Being a brand new podcast, it's harder to find, harder to show up in searches, etc. So if you guys like what you hear, or even if you don't like what you hear, just go give it a rating, give it a review. That would mean a lot to me. And if you write a review, I will even read it on the show. You can also find me on Twitter and YouTube at The Journey WoW Pod. And if you want to provide any feedback or ask a question for me to answer on air, you can email me at thejourneywowpod@gmail.com. Special thanks to Blizzard for our in-game music and sound, and to you for listening. I'll see you next time when the journey continues. Well, hello. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is awkward. WoW that's all, folks. WoW Remix Luncheon. What you need to do is it's kind of like a breadcrumb. Oh my gosh. And when you do that, it actually gives you an achievement. And that achievement is tastes like chicken. That's not correct.